This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by liner notes. Learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry professionals I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician on topics such as marketing, songwriting, touring, sync licensing, and much more. Sign up for liner notes at unstarvingmusician.com. It's an email newsletter from yours truly in which I share some of the best knowledge gems garnered from the many conversations featured on The Unstarving Musician. You'll also be privy to the latest podcast episodes and liner notes subscriber exclusives. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. This is The Unstarving Musician. I'm Robonzo. This is my podcast. It features conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals with occasional special topic episodes featuring yours truly. A glimpse into the minds of my varied guests, all intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Hey, I'm back. This is episode 301. I'm excited to be here. I can't believe it's been 3 months since I started my hiatus, but it's good to be back. I made a YouTube short claiming I was a little nervous. I'm not nervous, but it's just going to be me. No guest today. I might do more of that. I'm going to talk about songwriting and selling more merch at shows. It's a bit of a continuation in a way. Episode 299 I talked about merch, but I thought it was worth a part 2. And this stuff, by the way, if you're a subscriber of liner notes, you would have gotten this many weeks ago in one of the liner notes emails. But for those of you who just can't stand reading emails or don't want to be on my list, lucky you. Here is what I have to say on those topics. So when I wrote the liner notes edition on songwriting and selling more merch, I mentioned dipping my toes back into the waters of writing original material, which I've yet to do. Life's been busy. What can I say? I thought I'd look at, anyway, the tips du jour and share any that seem worthy of sharing. And I was also thinking of ways to reboot my own efforts, so I added a couple of less common thoughts. Getting started, though, with songwriting is the hardest part. Even if you've written a lot of songs, right? Look at me. I've written 2 songs. And starting on another one has been a challenge. But getting started can be tough. But you don't want to wait for inspiration to strike. Just start writing. That's the way to do it. Whether you begin with pen and paper or like humming ideas into a voice recorder or just noodling on your instrument, the key is to take the first step, as the saying goes. The other thing you really have to do is be prepared to capture your ideas whenever and wherever they come to you, because inspiration can be fleeting. So always be prepared with your phone, a pen, a paper napkin, a notebook, or a home studio setup to record those moments of brilliance. You can also mix things up with what's known as a pattern interrupt. I think that's a Tony Robbins thing, pattern interrupt. Maybe it's not, but I think I've heard him talk about it. If you find yourself in a creative rut, try stepping away from your instrument and writing ideas in your head first. Sing ideas into your phone and then figure out how to play them on your instrument afterwards. If you typically write music before lyrics, try reversing the process or try writing on a different instrument. So this type of pattern interrupt can lead to fresh ideas, right? Try it. And the other thing I would say is we should look to the prolific in songwriting for inspiration. Lennon and McCartney, obvious examples. During their 8-year run in the Beatles, I read around 200 songs and had 20 number 1 Billboard hits. So not every song was a chart topper, but putting in the work was essential to honing their craft. And hey, if we could all be so lucky to have number 1 hits of some kind out of 200 songs. And then I think it's worth thinking about, in closing on this whole songwriting thing, it's worth thinking about what other songwriters have said on the subject. This one's from James Taylor. He said, "I started being a songwriter pretending I could do it, and it turned out I could." That's pretty cool. And from Ingrid Michaelson, who I'm not really familiar with, but I love this quote. I think just letting go is a really good thing to do in many areas of your life, songwriting included. Carrie Ann Hurst, who I'm also not terribly familiar with, said, I swear I have at least one good song idea a day, but if I don't get pen to paper in 10 seconds, it's gone forever. I've heard a lot of quotes along those lines from writers of all kinds, poets, songwriters. Sean Lennon, the son of the John Lennon, said that songwriting is something that I have to do ritually. I don't just wait for inspiration. I try to write a little bit every day. I've heard songwriters say that on the Unstarving Musician, just like making an appointment with themselves to write. And then Pat Pattison said, I love this one, I hereby grant you permission to write crap. The more the better. Remember, crap makes the best fertilizer. That's a good one. All right. So, you're inspired, I hope, but you're not going to wait for inspiration again. You're just going to do it. And I'm going to do it with you. I'll let you know in the next episode how that's going. Let's talk selling more merch at shows. I haven't done much in the way of merch sales at shows. Most of my performing have been as a supporting musician, a drummer, and most often in cover bands, not exclusively, but often in cover bands. I've had the opportunity to work with several original artists, though, and I've watched what works for them. I've also watched them stumble a bit, but I'm just beginning to venture into doing my own original material at shows and thinking of merch opportunities for both original acts and cover bands, because why not, right? With that aside, here are my recommendations for selling more merch at your shows. And these are kind of the latest tips I've spent time thinking about for maximizing revenue and merchandising at your shows. So the first thing is to get organized. Take time to plan your merchandise offerings, pricing, and display ahead of time. I think that's where a lot of musicians fall down, where they could do better with their own merch sales. So get it all organized, just like it's part of your gear or part of the show, so that you can focus on performing while ensuring your merch table is always ready, right? And then we need to analyze and kind of adapt our sales efforts with accurate record keeping. So we have to keep track of inventory, keep track of what sells and what doesn't sell, and take notes after each show, just like you may be doing with the details of the performance, to identify trends and help you make informed decisions about future merch offerings and promotions, because I think ebbing and flowing or changing things up with the market and the times is a good thing. Offer items for all budgets. So have a variety of merchandise options to cater to different budgets, because a lot of people want to buy stuff, but a lot of people don't always feel like they want to spend much or can spend much. So offer affordable items too, like stickers or buttons alongside the more premium things like t-shirts or limited edition collectibles. Oh man, how awesome would it be to sell a lot of limited edition collectibles? And buttons or stickers. Put a smile on somebody's face who's supporting you. Okay, here's another good one. Showcase your merch on stage. So mention your merchandise during the performance, and consider like holding up one of the merch items or wearing it to generate interest. So when you tell a story about your songs, for example, you could mention the album they're on and let the audience know they can purchase the album at your merch table. And along with this, you ought to consider a giveaway to anyone who signs up for your email list and announce that on stage. So maybe you've got some stickers, like last year's stickers, or some buttons or something that you could give away, or some other tchotchke thing. Here's a good one. Enlist help and interact with fans and supporters. So enlist a helper to help you manage the merch table whenever possible, especially during peak times, so that buying is a smooth experience. And when you're at the merch table or merch booth, engage with your fans and Offer photo opportunities with your merch. You can also offer meet and greets. This is something that I've thought more about in the last year or so because of some performing I did with a friend who is on a label and kind of, he's kind of a deal when he's traveling around. So host meet and greets packaged as like VIP hangs because it'll create a memorable experience that really gives a lot of value to your merch and everything that you're doing, and it'll encourage repeat purchases. So yeah, host some meet and greets packaged as VIP hangs. You can probably sell more merch while you're doing it at the VIP hangs. Here's another one that surprisingly I've seen people stumble on, and that's clear pricing signage at your merch table or merch booth. So use large, easy-to-read signage for your merchandise prices so that buyers can quickly find what they need to know. And you don't have to be fancy. You can use a blank cardstock and a Sharpie. That works great. Just make it real obvious. And offer bundles. So create package deals like a CD plus T-shirt or a bundle of your entire CD catalog at a discounted price to encourage super fan or super supporter purchases. This one's pretty cool. Partner with local businesses. So collaborate with local companies like I read about this, like a hot sauce brand, to create unique merchandise that appeals to your fans and supports the community. I think that would be cool. Having some hot sauce with your logo on it. Robonzo's hot sauce. I'd have to think of something inappropriate to call it, of course. Okay, freebies and tips. So place low-cost giveaway items like stickers, magnets, or matches near your tip jar to incentivize tipping and show off your merchandise. So, give them a sticker with a tip kind of thing, or a magnet, or button, or whatever you want to give them. Collaborating with other artists is also a good thing. So you could partner with like local designers or artists to create visually appealing, exclusive merchandise that supports the creative community and attracts fans. Don't have to do it all yourself. Limited edition items are great, so you can really get some excitement and demand going by offering limited edition or exclusive merchandise at your shows. It creates a sense of urgency for fans to make a purchase when there's a number of items. So that's good. Event-specific merch. So create custom designs inspired by a venue or a city you're performing in to establish a stronger connection with the audience and with, like unique memorabilia, and also with the place that you're in or the venue. And be sure to offer multiple payment options. So use point-of-sale systems like Square or PayPal or one of the cash apps like Venmo or Zelle, and accept credit cards to make sure that you can process various payment methods quickly and efficiently. And of course, cash is always good. Communicate the impact of all this. So let fans know that by buying your merch directly, that buying your merch directly supports your career or your part-time thing, whatever, the band, and that it enables you to create music. Keep creating music. And then something you should always be doing with your merch sales, because it can lead to more merch sales, is to promote your email list. A lot of people stumble on this one. I've done it. I could do better. So at the shows, so offer multiple ways for fans to join your email list, such as like QR codes, sign-up forms on tablets, and business cards with your website. So focus on email sign-ups while informing fans about your membership subscriptions, crowdfunding initiatives, and social media profiles, those kind of things. Implementing all this stuff will help you create like a well-rounded merchandising approach that can really boost your sales and foster connections with fans, new fans, and with the local community. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to put some recommended reading that I had also provided in the liner notes edition that touched on this stuff. Recommended reading links in the show notes for this episode. I hope you found some of this stuff useful. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, complaints, find me on socials or at unstarvingmusician.com. There are plenty of ways to contact me there, and I always love hearing from listeners, even if it's just to say, good episode, or hey man, thanks for the info. Hey man, love your podcast. Hey man, could you talk less? No, I can't. All right. Before you go, I have something I would like to share with you. Perhaps you would like to share it with someone you care about. I have officially launched the beta version of Podcast Startup. So if you need a little help with that podcast you're contemplating, assuming you're contemplating one, or you know someone who's contemplating one, this is designed for new podcasters. Did you know that most podcasts don't make it past their first few episodes? They start, they stall, and sometimes they die. Sustaining a podcast ain't easy. Lack of planning and misaligned expectations are a recipe for fast podcast fade out. So for those of you who want to start a podcast the right way, go to unstarvingmusician.com/podcast startup to reserve your seat and to get a limited time offer price on Podcast Startup. You'll also receive a free download of Podcast Startup tips from yours truly. Just go to unstarvingmusician.com/podcast startup. I hope to see you on the inside there, and I will definitely see you in the next episode. If you do not yet have a website for your music, check out Bandzoogle. It was created to help musicians and bands build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle has amazing design options, a commission-free store to sell music, merch, tickets, and more, plus tools that can capture detailed fan data for you. Try it free at bandzoogle.com. Use the promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. Thank you for listening. You can leave us feedback, questions, comments, complaints at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. If you love this podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd-sponsor to learn about the many ways of showing your love and support. Your support does indeed equal love. The series music you heard in this episode is New Gods Part 2 by yours truly. Find links for all the places to hear the full version with vocals by yours truly at robonzo.com. Find links for all the people and things talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com. Peace, love, and a whole lot of gratitude.